ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Wallace.
When I was 16, the summer I was 16, I traded my mom in for a 1974 Monte Carlo. I didn't see her that much afterwards, but I think it was a good trade. I had been with her a lot the 16 years before, and I thought the whole parent-child thing had played itself out. I only mention that now because I think that I wouldn't be here today talking about how I became a writer if it wasn't for what happened that summer. Writers are romanticized in our culture, luckily for me. But they're romanticized a lot more than out of proportion to the degree they contribute to the culture. I know that, being a writer, and so I'm not as interested in talking about myself as I am generalizing from myself and how I became a writer to everybody else. How is it we become who we are, to do the things we do, to love the things we love? And I think that our initial compulsion is to look for a moment in our lives, a day, a person who has influenced us to make us become who we are. And the question I have is that even possible? I don't think it is. I think that we find stories in our own lives that we like, that we're drawn to, and we fill them with meaning. We bring meaning to it the same way that we might bring meaning to a dream. So we fill it with meaning in a way similar to the way we will fill a balloon full of water to give it weight. So that's what this is. This is me talking about my water balloon moment, which no doubt will be a phrase that goes down, will be part of the culture from now on. Water balloon moments. So I got this car the summer I was 16, and after that, I was gone. I didn't have a curfew. I stayed out as long as I wanted to and came home whenever I wanted to. And it was good for me, not as good for my mom, who worried about me the way moms do. And so she had me come in and wake her up when I got home, so she'd know I was okay and safe. But her sleeping medication of choice was a 10 milligram Valium and 2 Old Foresters on the rocks. So it was a chore waking her up, and it wasn't really that pleasant for her either. So we worked out a plan, and the plan was I would come in, I would write a note, piece of paper, and slip it under her door. And if that mother gene started to work at some point during the night, which invariably it would, she could wake up, turn on the light, see the little piece of paper at the edge of her door, and then know I was home, and then go back to sleep. So in the beginning, I wrote, "I'm home, love you, go back to bed," stuck it under the door. But eventually, I think probably as I had more fun going out, I had more fun with the notes. So I've brought a couple of the actual notes with me. Let me see if this one works up. This is my first. Okay, yes. So here is a note from 1977. You can see it dated at the bottom. "Dearest Mother, I am home at long last. I kept my equanimity about me while driving, of course, and made it home safe with the salubrious company of Bruce." So as you can see, I was an erudite, rising senior. I used words like erudite, salubrious, equanimity, words that were I to use now, I would be thrown in writer's jail. There is such a thing. People don't talk about it, but there is such a thing. I have to practice for the play during my eye appointment, and I am sorry. Cancel it and don't make another. My eyes are fine. Perhaps it's my nose. Now, if you look closely at this, you can see almost every word is misspelled. I'm assuming that equanimity, it's sounded out. Salubrious can't be right. I'm surprised I got mother correctly. And you can see it's a lovely historical document. The next one is a review of a concert I went to, a Willie Nelson concert. So I have several people who reviewed it and gave me some blurbs to use. He said it all without getting the hiccups. I enjoyed it. Annette Funicello. Disturbingly real and live. Felix Underwear. After watching him, you wonder how much balance it must take to do that. Paul Williamson, who I think was a composer, that little composer guy. Paul Williamson, on Roman Polanski's great tightrope walk over Niagara Falls, which a lot of people missed. So in 1977, there is that. Now, eventually I grew tired of writing these haphazard notes. It's difficult to do something new every night. So what happened in one of those, I don't know, I don't want to call it a magical moment, but I created these characters, fictional characters, which is something I'd never ever done before. The girl was named Brenda, and the boy was named Lee. I have no idea how I came up with those two names, Brenda and Lee. Probably listening to a song as I got out of the car. And so I came in, and I created Lee, who was no good. He ex-con, he drank a whole lot. He hit the dog with a rolled up newspaper, spent all day in the old ratty Barca Lounge where they found on the side of the road. Say things like, come over here and give me some sugar and bring a beer while you're doing it. He'd have friends come over, rowdy friends, and they'd set fires to things in the trailer park. He was no good. Then there was Brenda. Brenda was a sweetheart. She dropped out of high school in order to take care of her younger sister because who knows where her mom was. It was her trailer home they lived in. It's hard to say why she loved this guy. I think because he reminded her of her dad, who was also a ne'er-do-well. But she did. She loved him a lot and put up with a lot. But when he went to prison, she sort of gave up on him. She didn't want to have anything to do. She thought, okay, this is the time for a fresh start. But he got out of prison and came back. And that's where the notes pick up. Okay. I mean, there's nothing more realistic than this. That is not blood, by the way. That is probably coffee stain. Okay, so this is how it goes. Oh, what did I write this on the back of? I am not sure. A poem that my mom might have written. I guess writing around in the family. So here's how the story begins. Lee had come back. I'm back, sweetheart, he said coyishly. Well, I don't know how you say something coyishly. I don't know how that. Ever since I found this note, I've been trying to figure that out. I guess I'll be here for a while. Ah, my favorite chair. Lee made himself at home, a shabby place indeed, but a far better place to rest one's head than in jail, as I'm sure everybody here knows. Prison ain't really so bad, he said, after the junkies and the killers and the rapists leave you alone. They all had their dance with me. Brenda stared and wondered when Lee would leave her alone. So I don't know really. I think that you can guess what they all had their dance with me really means. I don't know as a rising senior that I actually knew. But I think I captured Lee's voice here. I'd never seen, by the way, I'd never been in jail at that point. I had seen the inside of a police station. When I was 15, I was driving home from an event out in the country, not a black tie affair, a very homey thing with my posse. I don't think there was a posse back then. I just wanted to say that. And we had been to we'd been to a pancake house, and long story, police stopped us. There was a pony keg at my feet. I got all the attention from the cops. They took us in, and the policeman started telling me a story about how beer leads to marijuana, and marijuana leads to LSD, and he had arrested a girl the other night who was on LSD, and she took off all her clothes and started making love to the blue light on top of his car. So that scared me straight. Things go from bad to worse for these guys. As you can imagine, Brenda thinks about killing herself. She has a lot of interesting habits. She pulls the pinky on her left hand a lot when she's nervous. And I'm kind of proud of that, because that's one of those telling details that bring a character to life, to life, and that's what I teach my students to this day. But she started pulling it so much that her finger became sore. Then she thought, since Lee wouldn't leave her alone, that she would kill herself. She got out her razor, and instead of killing herself, she shaved her legs. So you can imagine this. It was maybe a letdown for the reader. What happens next is really the water balloon moment that I want to talk about. Lee changes. And that's what fiction is about. It's about having a character, having them start out as one thing, and then end up as another. People change, or that's what we like to believe. I think people change in fiction a little bit more than they do in real life. But that's what you're after as a fiction writer, is this arc of change. And Lee, in a moment of revelation, realizes who he is and what he's done to Brenda. And one day, he decides to go. Lee retreated to Brenda's spacious bedroom in a semi-unconscious stupor. Brenda fell asleep on the couch. The next morning, when Brenda brushed all the sleep from her eyes, she found Lee gone and $1,000 laying on her dresser. The note accompanying the money said, "Thanks for everything." That wasn't a very moving note. I mean, it was something you might leave for a prostitute, but Lee was working on it. He didn't know better. What I'm about to read now is some of the worst writing you'll ever hear in your life. So be prepared. But it's some of the most important writing for me that I've ever done, because this is the note that I slipped under my mother's door that changed everything. Here we're inside his mind. Why did he leave? He was asking himself. No reason, except perhaps that last look Brenda gave him, the look of pain, immense suffering, and pumping that pain into his own body. As if a new day had dawned, he saw the leech he was. So he decided to carefully retrace his steps, the ones he had made years ago before prison. Lee left Brenda without a word. He knew it would be easier to say hello without ever having said goodbye. Once again, have no idea what that means. But the next day, my mom called me from work, and she said, "What happened to Lee? I thought he was such an asshole, and now look, he's changed, he's a good guy. I like him." And that's, when I found these notes after my mom died, she had files on us like the FBI. And I found these notes, and I remembered that moment when she said, "I love this, and you can't write these notes to me anymore, because I'm getting up every morning at 3 to read them. They're defeating the purpose." And so I realized that all this time what I've been doing is chasing that high, trying to write something so weird, so wonderful, so true, that someone who's not my mom would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to read it. And it's hard to say it, how that makes me feel. It's hard, even as a writer, it's hard to find the words. I guess the only way I could really describe it is that it fills me with a kind of salubrious equanimity. Thank you very much.